In the third year of our marriage, when Lu Yen came home late reeking of disinfectant, I knew it was time for a divorce. In a previous life, his vegetative first love woke up on this very day, her memories frozen in their happiest year. Ying just woke up and can't be left alone, so I'll be staying at the hospital with her, he said. He came home at midnight, exhausted, his body covered in the pungent smell of disinfectant, a contrast to his former germophobic self, after changing his shoes. He lay down beside me, his tone leaving no room for discussion. I quietly watched him for a while, not making a scene like I did in the past, begging him not to go. Instead, I calmly responded with a simple okay. Perhaps my calm demeanor surprised him, prompting him to give me a few extra glances. Still, he said nothing. My head hurts. Give me a massage, he requested, closing his eyes and naturally resting his head on my lap, guiding my hand to his temples, just like many times before. When he returned from work, I would tenderly ease his fatigue of the day. After the massage, Lu Yen would compliment me, saying, "Your skills are just as good as any professional." I felt a sense of accomplishment every time he said that. He didn't know I had learned this specifically for him, but this time, I made no move. Lu Yen frowned slightly. I pretended not to notice and picked up the divorce papers I had prepared earlier. Softly, I said, "Lu Yen, let's get a divorce." The man who had been resting his eyes suddenly opened them and sat up, looking at me in shock and annoyance. "Lin Ran, have you lost your mind? I'm not crazy, I just don't love you anymore. The Lin Ran who loved you died in a car crash in a past life, too." When did I start falling for Lu Yen? It's been so long I can't even remember. We were childhood sweethearts, promised to each other as kids, before Dinging appeared. My relationship with Lu Yen was great. He would wait for me after school and take my backpack from me. He'd tease me when I couldn't solve a math problem, saying, "You're such a little dummy, our kids are doomed if they inherit your brains." I would feign anger and ignore him. Then, to make it up to me, Lu Yen would buy me my favorite milk tea. The milk tea was addictive, much like my feelings for Lu Yen. Once started, there was no turning back, even to the point of giving my life for it. Maybe it was fate. The first time I met Dinging at Lu Yan's house was on my birthday. Consequently, when Lu Yan and Dinging got together, and she suggested celebrating their anniversary of meeting, Lu Yan never showed up for my birthdays again. After dinner at my house, Lu Yan mysteriously said he had a gift for me. I followed him home and met Dinging in the living room. Dinging, the daughter of Lu Yan's father's comrade, was orphaned and lived with her grandmother until her only relative passed away recently. Lu Yan's father, feeling sorry for her, took her in. At that time, I didn't realize this frail girl, who seemed like she might break if touched, would slowly infiltrate Lu Yan's life and steal him away from me. Dinging was the same age as us and transferred to our class. From then on, where there were once two shadows, there became three. Dinging spoke little, mostly listening quietly, but whenever it concerned Lu Yan, she would always chime in, saying things like, "Brother Yan, you ranked first in the class again. Brother Yen, you're so good at basketball. Brother Yen, your approach to solving problems is even clearer than the teacher's." As a girl myself, I couldn't help but notice her subtle intentions. I too had felt nervous and insecure before, but it seemed that Lu Yen particularly disliked her, complaining to me in private more than once, "She's so coquettish, like a little green tea. He always says our Lin Ran is better," adorably naive. I remember the sunset that day was extraordinarily beautiful. On the vast playground, our shadows overlapped. Lu Yen whispered softly in my ear. He said, "Lin Ran, let's be together after high school graduation." At that moment, my heart raced, and I nodded, my face blushing too much to lift my head. After confessing his feelings, Lu Yen deliberately distanced himself from Dinging, but they lived under the same roof, a fact that couldn't be changed. I realized something was off when Lu Yen started to bring up Dinging during our private moments. "She's really silly, even hurting her hand while cooking. How can anyone like Bitter Melon? She's really hard to figure out. Last night at dinner, she cried, remembering her parents." His tone shifted from disdain to sympathy, and eventually to a slight smile when he mentioned her. It didn't sit well with me, and I even forbade the mention of Dinging's name. Lu Yen smiled and tousled my hair. "Okay, as you wish, my little jealous one." Things were peaceful for a while after that, but you can't hide affection for someone. We inevitably mention that person, just as I often talk about Lu Yen in front of my friends, just as Lu Yen repeatedly mentioned Dinging in front of me, unknowingly even starting to call her Inging, but most of the time, he directly called me by my name, Lin Ran. The confrontation happened on the night of our high school graduation. I was planning to confess my feelings to Lu Yen that day. Dinging called him, complaining about no hot water at home, and Luyan left me abruptly to go to her. In the pouring rain, I trembled as I called out, "Luyan, do you like Dinging?" Luyan didn't answer, but his resolute steps said it all. A few days later, they announced their relationship on social media. Later, to heal, I went to a university in another city. Before leaving, I blocked Luyan and Dinging until one casual conversation. My mom mentioned Dinging. That girl is in a vegetative state now. Whether she'll wake up depends on fate. I was just finishing an internship in my senior year of college, studying finance. My parents asked me to help with the family business. I saw Luyan again a month later. He came to my dad's company to discuss a project. Dressed sharply in a suit, he had lost the immaturity of youth, appearing mature and steady. I hesitated, then nodded distantly as a greeting. However, Luyan stopped me. "When do you plan to remove me from your blacklist?" The elevator was crowded, and everyone looked our way. Luyan was determined not to give up. I reluctantly unlocked my phone, knowing I worked in finance. He started asking me financial questions every now and then. He even brought up Dinging. We had already broken up before she fell into a coma. I pretended not to see, ignoring him, but undeniably, my heart raced at that moment. Luyan pursued me for about half a year, relentlessly. Eventually, we got together. Everything seemed to fall into place after that. Before getting married, I gave Luyan a chance. "Are you sure you want to marry me?" I didn't spell it out, but I think he understood. Luyan didn't hesitate and kissed me. After marriage, Luyan hoped I would focus on the family. I quit my job and tried my best to be a good wife, taking care of his meals, diet, and living conditions. Luyan has a poor stomach, so I learned to cook nutritious meals for him. When Luyan couldn't sleep well, I learned massage and acupressure. I gave my whole heart and effort, and received Luyan's reciprocation in return. He would prepare surprises for me on my birthday. He would also take me abroad for our wedding anniversary. Waking up from dreams in the middle of the night, seeing the person I love lying next to me, I always felt quite fortunate, so fortunate that I almost forgot that Dinging was also part of our relationship. In the third year of our marriage, Dinging woke up. She had amnesia, her memory stuck in the year when she and Luyan were most in love. She only recognized Luyan, and would start crying and threatening suicide if she didn't see him for even a moment. Luyan started visiting the hospital frequently. I had my doubts about the situation. I even went to the hospital with Luyan to visit her, but when Dinging saw me, she acted as if she had been greatly provoked. She would scream, throw, and smash things around. Luyan explained that she couldn't accept the reality of our marriage. He asked me not to appear in front of Dinging anymore, to avoid worsening her condition. I felt wronged. "You are my husband, that's a fact. What if Dinging's memory never recovers? Are we supposed to hide this forever?" Luyan paused, then said, "Let's wait a bit longer." This waiting continued until I found out I was pregnant. As I walked out of the doctor's office and was about to call Luyan, I looked up to see Dinging standing outside the door, staring at me with resentful eyes. "Who allowed you to carry Luyan's child?" Lin ran. "You're just a homewrecker. Give me back my yen, brother." She uncontrollably snatched the medical report from my hand and tore it up. During the scuffle, I hit the wall and scraped my elbow. "Dinging, you and Luyan have already broken up." I couldn't help but reveal the truth in the heat of the moment. Dinging's eyes turned red. "No," I said that in anger, realizing something was amiss. It was already too late. My heart sank. "You haven't lost your memory." After a moment of panic, she admitted calmly. Lin ran. "Don't get too smug. If I could steal Luyan from you once, I can do it again. Just wait and see." The revelation was a severe blow to me. When Luyan called, I told him everything. He paused on the other end of the line, not only disbelieving what I said but also blaming me for being petty. From that day on, the temperature of our relationship rapidly dropped. I no longer turned a blind eye to his hospital visits. I tried to stop him, crying and pleading for him not to go. However, Luyan was indifferent to my tears, and even later brought Dinging home. The reason was laughable. It helps her recover. I had always thought Luyan was unaware that he was innocent, until I heard him and Dinging talking in the study. "Yen brother, if I hadn't lost my memory, would you still take care of me?" Of course. His answer was resolute. I felt like I had fallen into an ice pit. That night, we had a big argument. Even then, Luyan was still deceiving himself. "Dinging is my sister." I was so furious that I felt abdominal pain and couldn't stay in this house for another moment. As I walked out the door, it was Dinging who came after me first. She acted like a victor, boasting in front of me. Lin ran. "You can't beat me." I completely lost my senses and slapped her. Luyan, who arrived just in time to see this, showed his blatant favoritism, without understanding the situation. He pushed me aside and tenderly embraced Dinging, unsteady on my feet. I staggered back onto the road, Just then, an out-of-control truck was coming right towards me, sat down across from my parents and me, a forced smile barely clinging to his face. He seemed to hesitate for a moment before speaking, his voice tinged with unease. I was worried about you, he finally said, his tone less confident than usual. His eyes briefly met mine, searching for something, perhaps a sign of softening. But I remained impassive, my decision firm. My response was cool and distant. Is that all? If there's nothing else, you shouldn't have bothered coming all this way. The tension in the room thickened, palpable and heavy. My parents exchanged glances, their expressions a mix of concern and disapproval. They had always known that there were problems, but the unfolding reality seemed to hit them hard. Lu Yan's posture stiffened, and he cleared his throat, obviously uncomfortable with the cold reception. Ran, we need to talk about this. We can't just talk, I interrupted, my voice steady and calm. There's nothing left to discuss, I've made up my mind. The finality in my voice seemed to resonate around the room. Lu Yan looked at me, then at my parents, his expression faltering as he realized the gravity of the situation. My mother finally broke the silence, her voice gentle yet firm. Ran has made her decision, Lu Yan, it's best if you respect that. Defeated and with nothing more to say, Lu Yan slowly got up. His movements were sluggish, those of a man burdened by his own mistakes. He glanced at me one last time, a mix of regret and resignation in his eyes, before turning and walking out of the living room. As the door closed behind him, a sense of relief washed over me. I was free from the turmoil that had clouded my life, now, surrounded by the familiarity of my childhood home and the unconditional support of my parents. I felt a peace I hadn't known in a long time. This chapter of my life was closed, and for the first time in a long while, I looked forward to the days ahead with hope. He quickly adjusted his expression and gently coaxed me. All right, let's not be upset anymore. We can talk about everything at home. It seemed he hadn't taken my words from yesterday seriously, so I emphasized again, Lu Yan, I'm serious about the divorce. Also, I've already submitted the divorce registration online. Once the 30-day cooling-off period is over, we can go and collect our divorce certificate. Seeing my firm tone, leaving no room for softening, Lu Yan finally took on a serious expression. Someone lightly tugged at my sleeve. My mother spoke up to mediate. Ran, let's talk things over nicely. Don't just bring up divorce at the drop of a hat. What exactly happened? My father, who had been silent until then, also spoke up. His face was stern, and he looked disapprovingly at Lu Yan. In my past life, when I was with Lu Yan, my father was the first to object. He was afraid I would get hurt again, and unfortunately, his fears came true. The man I had loved since my childhood ended up costing me my life. Thinking about this, a nameless anger surged within me. I clenched my fists, and when I looked at Lu Yan again, my emotions were far from calm. Faced with my father's pressing questions, Lu Yan still tried to downplay the situation. He said, Dinging woke up. I visited her in the hospital twice, and Ran was a bit upset. Indeed, it was twice. One visit lasted 12 hours. Before I could erupt, my father stood up first, furiously accusing Lu Yan of being unappreciative and distracted by other options. The conversation ended on a sour note. Lu Yan left in a disheveled state, almost chased out by my father, although my father was angry. Which parent would wish for their child to go through a divorce unless absolutely necessary? Moreover, Lu Yan hadn't committed any fundamental transgressions at the moment. My mother hinted a few times unintentionally, Ran, you've liked Lu Yan since you were young, and it wasn't easy for the two of you to come together. Haven't you been happy in your 3 years of marriage? Are you really willing to give up and let him be with Dinging? I was momentarily speechless. My heart felt sour and swollen. In my past life, it was my unwillingness to let go that led me to cling to a marriage that existed in name only, even after countless arguments. But what was the outcome? Bitterly, I tugged at my lip, my hand unconsciously rested on my stomach. If Lu Yan hadn't approached me in the first place, if he hadn't let me taste happiness, would the outcome have been different? But there are no ifs in life. I put down my chopsticks, suppressed my sentimental feelings, unlocked my phone, and scrolled through some photos. Take a look at this first. I handed my phone to them. After Lu Yan had left last time, I had someone watch Dinging around the clock, mainly because I wasn't sure if Lu Yan would willingly go through with the divorce after 30 days. Unexpectedly, the detective agency had some surprising findings. That evening, as I was walking my dog downstairs in the apartment complex, I bumped into Lu Yan, who had come to see me. What bad luck. I turned to leave, but someone grabbed my wrist, reluctantly stopping. I looked at him indifferently. Lu Yan's face showed exhaustion, with dark circles under his eyes. It seemed Dinging had given him a hard time these past few days. I struggled hard, but couldn't break free. Lu Yan rubbed his brow irritably. Ran, enough is enough. My patience has its limits. Go upstairs and tell your parents, then come back with me later. Ever since you left, I've skipped breakfast for many days. And no one has been there to send my clothes to the laundry, he complained, his words laced with blame for my supposedly unreasonable behavior. It seems I was too good to him before, allowing him to assert himself so confidently. I stared at him intently. Luyen, when you pursued and married me, was it because you knew me well enough to think I'd make a suitable, easy-to-control wife due to my mild temperament? Luyen's pupils constricted, probably because I had hit a nerve. And he became visibly flustered and angry. Lin ran. Are you possessed? How can you become so cold-hearted? Dinging has lost her memory. She doesn't recognize anyone but clings to me. Can't you try to see it from my perspective? You weren't like this before. I laughed. And how was I before? Obedient and sensible, revolving my life around you, a devoted nanny who loved you unconditionally. For a moment, I even wondered if Luyen had ever truly loved me. The answer was no. He had always treated me more like a nanny. His kindness was merely the crumbs of his satisfaction. I couldn't bear to speak another word to him. It was just too disgusting. I struggled fiercely. Let go of me. Perhaps his conscience kicked in. Luyen's demeanor was less aggressive than before, his tone significantly softer. If you dislike it, I'll try to visit Dinging less. That's none of my business. Do we really have to get a divorce? Yes, and if you don't agree, that's fine too. I'll file for it. I stopped engaging with him and commanded my dog Kola to bite him. Luyen yelped in pain and finally released his grip. Once free, I took a step back to distance myself from him. Luyen, amnesia is no excuse for you, and what you did in the hospital is truly revolting. And besides, has she really lost her memory? Luyen narrowed his eyes. What do you mean? I left it at that. Knowing Luyen would investigate further, Luyen acted quicker than I expected. Calling me from an unfamiliar number, I was about to hang up the moment I recognized his voice. Wui misses you. Come and see it. Wui was a kitten I had rescued. It had been sick and stayed at the pet hospital when I was reborn. Caught up in the divorce, I had forgotten about it. To think that Luyen would stoop so low as to use the cat to force a meeting. I cursed at the phone. How despicable. Not sure if Luyen, who disliked cats, might do something drastic. I rushed home with trepidation. But I found someone crouching at Luyen's doorstep, hearing footsteps. The woman curled up on the ground suddenly looked up. The surprise on her face turned to hatred when she saw me. It was Dinging, one of the people who had caused my downfall in my past life. I took a deep breath, and then another, barely containing my urge to tear her apart. In this life, I just wanted to live well. I didn't want to get entangled with these wretched people again. I shook the keys in my hand. Move aside. Lin ran. Did you say something to Brother Yen? Why isn't he coming to see me or answering my calls? She said, looking disheveled in her hospital gown and unkempt hair, her demeanor like a clown. Surprised by her words, I kept my expression unchanged and scoffed coldly. Why don't you ask him yourself? My response seemed to hit a nerve, and her face twisted in pain. Why are you even here if you're talking about divorcing him? Lin ran. I want you to leave and never show up in front of Brother Yen again. You're nothing but a thief, having stolen my life. Now that I've woken up, Brother Yin can only belong to me, a thief. I won't shoulder such an unfounded accusation. Luyen indulges her, but I won't. First, your coma wasn't my doing. Second, it was Luyen who pursued me for marriage. Third, we are still not divorced. And your irrational behavior is unacceptable. I spoke bluntly, without mincing words. And I could see Lin Rant's expression cracking bit by bit. Lastly, I wish you success and take care of him. Make sure he doesn't bother me again. May the two of you be locked together for life. And stop troubling others. I spoke sincerely. Dinging appeared provoked, her face contorted with rage as she lunged at me, before her hand could even touch the hem of my clothes. Luyen, who emerged from inside, pushed her away. His push was strong enough that Dinging staggered back several steps before steadying herself. Luyen protectively pulled me behind him. He angrily scolded Dinging, who allowed you to touch her. I stood behind Luyen, slightly dazed. Has Luyen lost his mind? In our past life, after Dinging woke up, he had chosen her side unwaveringly countless times. And today, he was protecting me. I didn't understand and was deeply shocked. Dinging was equally stunned. She looked at Luyen, her lips quivering and tears streaming down her face. We were so in love. How could you hurt me for another woman? Luyen glanced back at me and said, she's not just another woman, she's my wife. What am I then? Dinging's face smeared with tears. Her voice was wretched and sorrowful. Why are you doing this to me? Why did you let me wake up? Everything has changed, everyone is moving forward, and I'm the only one left behind. Dinging cried uncontrollably. I was tired of their drama. I turned and went inside. Seeing my former lover devastated in front of me, I thought Luyen might be somewhat moved. However, his reaction once again surprised me. He was almost indifferent. Stop pretending. You never had amnesia. Dinging, let the past go. Stop clinging to it. Go back to the hospital, I've already informed our parents. And they'll be back in the country in a few days. I paused. In my past life, my fierce resistance only made them more relentless. Living again, I decided to let them be, but now Luyan himself had come to his senses. I shook my head and sighed. Such a scoundrel, always self-destructive. As I was packing up for Labor Day, a hand suddenly reached out and held mine. Can you not leave? His voice was unusually gentle. Without hesitation, I responded, Luyan, it's over between us. The fingers gripping mine tightened. Luyan was restraining his emotions. Why, the incident at the hospital was an accident. You don't like dinging, do you? I promised you that we could part ways. I can make it up to you for the past, he said. But how can you compensate for 2 lives? Luyan, I remained silent, struggling against his grip. Luyan has always had limited patience with me. Seeing my unyielding demeanor only agitated him further. In a sudden move, he snatched the pet carrier from my hands and shook it violently, causing Wui, the cat inside, to cry out in fear. What exactly do you want from me? Luyan has never liked cats, nor has he ever paid attention to their feelings. Seeing Wui cowering in the corner of the carrier, I lost my temper. I looked up sharply and said firmly, I want you to stay away from me, Luyan. I never want to see you again in my life. Perhaps he had never seen me this angry before. Nor had he seen me look at him with such hatred. The color drained from Luyan's face, his body wavered, and his grip loosened, causing the carrier to crash onto the marble floor with a harsh noise. Wui was terrified. Without thinking, I pushed Luyan away and held the carrier close. Before I left, I gave him one last look. Luyan, don't make me hate you. Luyan snapped out of his daze, standing there, at a loss for what to do. He opened his mouth, as if to say something, but I didn't want to hear his voice anymore and walked away without looking back. After that day, Luyan kept his distance for a while. I returned to work at my father's company. One day, as usual, I went to the office and saw Luyan waiting in the lobby with a large bouquet of roses. I walked past him, ignoring his presence. Luyan hurried after me, saying urgently, Xiaoran, happy birthday. It was during office hours, and the area was bustling. The large, conspicuous bouquet of roses caught the attention of many colleagues, causing them to stop and watch. Reluctantly, I stopped and turned around. Luyan might have thought his earnestness had moved me. A relieved smile appeared on his face as he stepped forward and offered the flowers. I arranged them myself. They're your favorite champagne roses. I looked down quietly at the unevenly arranged bouquet for a moment, then, under his hopeful gaze, I reached out and took them. Joy appeared on Luyan's face as he eagerly added, I've also booked your favorite seafood restaurant for tonight. I'll pick you up after work. The security guard, arriving late, began to disperse the onlookers and stood between me and Luyan, waving people off. He said, Mr. Lin has ordered that you are not to appear at our company. My father was very protective, after seeing a photo of Luyan kissing Dinging. He had ordered the security and also terminated several contracts with Luyan's company. A year ago, Uncle Lu's old eye condition had flared up, and he went abroad for treatment, leaving Luyan in charge of the company. His capabilities didn't match his father's, and he struggled to manage. It was my father's support that had helped him stabilize his position. But this termination of cooperation was a severe blow to Luyan. In his previous life, he took my affection for granted. This life, I've discarded him like a worn-out shoe, and now, he was trying every possible way to please me again. Luyan didn't move. He was looking at me, waiting for my response. Although the security guard had orders, he hesitated to act. Everyone's eyes were on me. Holding the roses, I walked slowly to the trash can by the door. Without hesitation, I let go. This is my response, I said, looking at him. In my heart, you, Luyan, are just like this discarded rose. Through the crowd, I saw Luyan's face turn pale, his eyes filled with hurt. I calmly withdrew my gaze and signaled to the security guard. As Luyan was escorted out, passing by me, he said, My mom has returned to the country and would like to see you. At that moment, I strived to keep my face calm, but inside, I couldn't remain indifferent. My in-laws were very kind to me in my past life, even when Luyan initially dated Dinging. They were the first to object. Their disagreement over this matter was intense. In college, Dinging met many outstanding men and began to despise Luyan. Every argument ended with her suggesting a breakup, and after numerous times, Luyan grew tired and agreed. Dinging went out, had her fun, and then wanted to return, even threatening suicide, but her plan backfired, and she accidentally fell from the second floor. It was terribly extreme. All this was later told to me by my mother-in-law. I was restless all day. In the end, I couldn't bring myself to meet them. My father noticed my low spirits and gave me a few days off to go out and clear my mind. On the day I was to leave for the airport, as I opened my door, I saw my mother-in-law pacing back and forth in my hallway. When our eyes met, there was a brief moment of awkwardness. Ran, are you going on a long trip? She asked with a forced smile. The once close mother-in-law and daughter-in-law now interacted with distance and caution. A bitter taste spread through my heart. I stepped aside and said, "Mom, why didn't you tell me you were coming? Please, come in." "I won't come in," she said, waving her hand with a look of shame. "I'm too ashamed to face your parents." I wanted to say that this was a matter between Lu Yan and me and had nothing to do with them. She didn't need to feel guilty, but the word somehow stuck in my throat. Marriage involves two families. With the current state between me and Lu Yan, how could there not be tensions between our elders? "Mom, did you need to talk to me about something?" I asked. My mother-in-law wiped the corner of her eye, seemingly remembering the purpose of her visit. She looked at me tenderly and said, Ran, I'm not here to persuade you to reconcile. When you got married, I told you that you could leave anytime if you were unhappy, because marriage is for happiness, and so is divorce. Now that Lu Yan doesn't appreciate what he has and remains entangled with Dingying, I know you've been wronged and I support your decision to leave. Regarding the division of assets, you are the victim and should rightfully take the majority. Don't worry about that." Tears uncontrollably rolled down my cheeks, and I interrupted her. "I'm not after the money, and besides, Dad needs money for his treatment abroad. You're not after it because you're kind, but if we don't provide, it will weigh on our conscience," she replied. Tears blurred my vision, and I choked up several times, unable to speak. In my past life, fearing to worry my parents, I never spoke a word about Lu Yan and Dingying until I died. Unexpectedly, in this life, I still ended up worrying them. "Don't cry, silly child," my mother-in-law said, giving me a hug. "Mom just wants you to be happy in the future. I came back this time just to apologize to you in person." She straightened my body with both hands. "All right, I've said everything I needed to. Your dad's situation isn't good. I need to go back immediately. Even though you two have parted ways, I will always be your mom. You can come visit us abroad when you have the chance." I nodded heavily. "Give my regards to Dad." After watching my mother-in-law enter the elevator, I stood there a while longer, calming my emotions before I bent down to pick up my luggage. Out of the corner of my eye, I suddenly noticed my parents standing behind me. My dad's eyes were red and his expression was grave. My mom was covering her mouth, already in tears. I went to Yunnan, wandering around, eating and drinking. It seemed I really could temporarily forget some troubles. I only returned home the day before the divorce. That night, I unblocked Lu Yan from the blacklist and sent him a message. "Meet at the Civil Affairs Bureau entrance at 9 a.m. tomorrow." After waiting for an hour, just when I thought he might have regrets, finally, I received his reply. "Okay." I breathed a sigh of relief and had a good night's sleep. The next day, I was on time at the entrance of the Civil Affairs Bureau. Lu Yan arrived almost at the same time as me. Seeing him, I stepped forward, wanting to quickly get it over with. After a few steps, I noticed Lu Yan hadn't followed. My heart skipped a beat, wondering if he was going to cause trouble. I frowned and turned around, facing Lu Yan directly. I hadn't looked closely before, in such a short time. Lu Yan looked significantly worn out, normally so conscious of his image. He now had a long stubble around his lips, and even his tie was sloppily done. A struggle flashed in his eyes. "Is there really no chance for us anymore?" "Yes." From the moment of rebirth, I had been waiting for this day. The procedures went smoothly, and soon I had the hot-off-the-press divorce certificate in hand. Walking out of the Civil Affairs Bureau, I truly smiled from the heart. A month later, I received several million in cash transferred by Lu Yan, along with agreements for the transfer of several properties. A year later, Uncle Lu passed away. Our whole family attended the funeral. It was also the first time I saw Lu Yan after the divorce. I had heard a bit about his situation. Without my dad's business support, he was exhausted by those ruthless directors. The company's situation had also worsened significantly. Already struggling at work, he was further entangled by Dingying. Dingying had dropped out of college after an accident and, though she had awoken, she had no capacity to work. Thus, Lu Yan became her last lifeline before drowning, but the more she tried to cling to him, the more Lu Yan detested her. The worst time Dingying made a scene, she threatened suicide at the top of Lu Yan's company building. She thought that even if Lu Yan was heartless, he wouldn't bear to let her die. But this time, she lost the bet. Lu Yan didn't show up from start to finish. Heartbroken, Dingying completely lost her sanity. She told Lu Yan she had thought it through, would not bother him anymore, and wanted to see him one last time. Lu Yan believed her, but this time it almost cost him his life. Dingying walked into Lu Yan's office and pulled out a knife she had hidden in her bag. Laughing maniacally, she said, "If I can't have it, then I'll destroy it." During the struggle, Lu Yan was injured on the face, leaving a hideous scar. and Dinging was sentenced to 10 years for attempted murder. After paying respects to Uncle Lu, I spoke with Aunt Lu for a while. As I left, passing by Lu Yan, he seemed to want to say something, almost reaching out to grab my hand but hesitating. Finally, all his words boiled down to one sentence: "Are you doing well?" I didn't look at him, nor did I speak, just passing by. Silently in my heart, I replied, "Every day away from you is a sunny day." Story 2. I was reborn. And the first thing I did was to remove the tubes from my comatose husband lying in the hospital bed. Why bother with a rescue? To rescue him so he can keep his mistress, abuse me, and drive me to depression and suicide. After my rebirth, I took the name Niuhuluanshin, one who allowed you to remove the tubes. In the hospital room, my mother-in-law arrived furiously. Unfortunately, she was too late. I had already signed the consent form to stop the rescue efforts and personally removed the oxygen tube from Qingjin. Qingjin had a severe car accident yesterday. After being rescued, the doctors declared him brain dead. However, who could have known that 6 months later, this despicable man would miraculously wake up, proving the saying, "A scourge lives for 1,000 years." At that time, I didn't know he was keeping a mistress. Nor did I know the car accident occurred while he was buying a Valentine's Day gift for her. So, learning of his accident, I was not only devastated but also spent all my money and took out huge loans to save him. I swallowed my pride and borrowed money from relatives, went to the hospital daily to feed him nutritional porridge, massaged his body, and talked to him. Who would have thought that the first thing Qingjin would do upon waking up was ask for a divorce? He said that having faced death, he realized life was too short to suppress himself and wanted to pursue true love. I couldn't handle the blow, but I was even less able to withstand his continual domestic abuse and the disgusting acts with his mistress. Unable to bear the humiliation, I agreed to the divorce. During the divorce, he promised to take on the debt from his medical bills. But after the divorce, he suddenly reneged, claiming I had borrowed the money, so naturally, I should be the one to pay it back. Constantly tormented by Qingjin and his mistress, I eventually wanted to just get the divorce over with, so I didn't scrutinize the divorce agreement. I never imagined someone could be so shameless, but in the end, all the debt fell on me. Qingjin was a mama's boy. The house we lived in was in his mother's name, and most of his income went to his mother. I didn't get a penny from the divorce and had no means to pay back the debts. When relatives found out about the divorce, they immediately came to demand their money back, some of which my parents had helped me borrow. These relatives harassed my parents relentlessly. Every day, countless people came to our house demanding money. My mother has high blood pressure and was taken to the hospital several times in distress. My father, humiliated in front of relatives, became extremely irritable. One day, unable to bear it any longer, he impulsively took a knife to attack Qingjin but didn't succeed and was instead arrested by the police for 15 days. Our family was left in ruins, a complete mess. I was powerless to change the situation, cried every day, and developed severe depression. Less than a year after the divorce, I jumped from a building and killed myself. Then, unexpectedly, I was reborn the day after Qingjin's car accident. At that time, Qingjin was still being resuscitated. And it was also when he needed money the most. In my previous life, it was also today that I had incurred a tremendous debt for him. Given another chance, of course, I chose to give up the treatment. 2. I coldly watched the numbers on Qingjin's heart monitor drop to 0. The feeling of revenge was indescribably satisfying. My mother-in-law, in disbelief, watched Qingjin, who is now dead, and broke down crying. "My son, how could you die? How could you leave your mother alone in this world?" After crying, she suddenly turned on me, baring her teeth and swinging at me. I dodged to the side. "Anshin, what right did you have to give up on treating my son? What right do you have now that he's dead? You owe me my son," she shouted and made a scene like a shrew. "Was it me you gave up, mother? Wasn't it you who gave up?" I retorted coldly. "What nonsense are you talking about? How could I possibly give up on my son? My only son. It was you who killed him, yesterday. You were the one who said you couldn't afford to save Qingjin, so today I had no choice but to sign the form to stop treatment," I said coldly. My mother-in-law's face turned pale. She thought she had me under her control, convinced that even if she didn't contribute a single penny, I would still find a way to save Qingjin. Back then, she was constantly urging me to borrow money from my maternal relatives, claiming that she had already tried and failed with Qin's relatives. She thought she had everything figured out, but she didn't expect that I would suddenly break the norms. You. My mother-in-law couldn't utter a single word. "If we're talking about who really caused Qingjin's death, it's you, Mom. After all the money Qingjin made over the years was in your hands, and you didn't offer a dime when he was in trouble. If anyone should feel resentment, it should be directed at you," I said sarcastically. After that, I didn't have time to delay. There were many things I needed to deal with, such as the property and assets between me and Qin Jin, the insurance compensation, and even the money Qin Jin had spent on his mistress. All these needed to be clearly accounted for. I left straight away. Of course, I didn't bother with Qin Jin's funeral arrangements. Crying for such a man would only disgust myself. When I got home, I had the renovation company remove all the valuable furniture, and I smashed everything else that couldn't be moved. The house wasn't mine, but all the interior decorations were paid for by my parents. How could I let others benefit from that? After finishing, I went back to my parents' house. My parents didn't really understand or agree with what I did. Logically, they thought I should be upset about Qin Jin's death, but instead, I behaved as if nothing happened and even seemed happy. I couldn't explain too much to them, only asking them to trust me, insisting that I wasn't ungrateful. My parents definitely stood by my side, even in a previous life, when they were driven to despair by Qin's family and relatives. They never blamed me, thinking of the humiliation my parents endured because of Qin's family in my past life. My hatred deepened. Qin Jin was just one of the main culprits. His mother and his mistress were also to blame. I wouldn't let any of them off the hook. The next morning, Qin's mother, frantic, kept calling me non-stop, after dozens of calls. I finally answered calmly, "And Xian, you wretched woman, are you dead? Why haven't you answered the phone for so long?" Qin's mother's shrill scream came through. "Your son is the one who's dead, remember, you." Qin's mother was so angry she could spit blood. "Where did all the stuff in the house go? Did you smash the house? Did you? That was Qin Jin's and my home. Now that Qin Jin is dead, I have the final say on how things are handled here. You have no right to interfere. The house is in my name, it's my home, and you need to understand your place. It was me who allowed you to live there," Qin's mother said self-righteously. I just had to laugh. Indeed, the house was fully paid for by Qin's mother, but at least half of that money came from the salary Qin Jin handed over to his mother while we were dating. Of course, since Qin Jin and I weren't married, his money had nothing to do with me. However, because of buying the house, Qin's mother claimed she had no money left for a dowry. My parents, who have always cherished me as their only daughter, didn't want to cause any unhappiness over the dowry issue. They not only agreed not to take the dowry, but also agreed to pay for our house's renovations. At that time, Qin's mother repeatedly said that the house was meant for me and Qin Jin, and that she just happened to have the property in her name. We had the right to live, rent, or sell it as we wished. It was my fault for being naive and blindly devoted to Qin Jin, falling for the deceit of this heartless mother and son. I took a deep breath, trying to control my emotions. Getting angry or depressed over such people is not worth it. "I don't even care about the house," I said, dismissing the importance of the property in the grand scheme of things. "I'll just leave you to live here until you die," I said coldly. Given Qin's mother's temperament, it was impossible for me to get a share of the house. So I didn't want to waste time on it. Living with cold, unclaimed assets, with no one to mourn or inherit, is life's greatest tragedy. "You're cursing me," Qin's mother asked angrily. I ignored her and continued, "But the renovations were paid for by my family. And all the appliances and furniture were bought by us. Shouldn't I take them when I move out?" "Qin, you ungrateful wretch, don't you have a conscience? I paid for the house for you to live in, and now that something has happened to my son, you turn your back on us. Aren't you afraid of divine retribution?" "I'm not afraid. After all, it's not me who will be struck by lightning, as someone has already faced their karma, haven't they?" I retorted sarcastically. "What did you say? Are you saying my son's death is karma? Shouldn't you know that very well? Let me tell you, Qin, my son is dead, and you won't have an easy life either." Qin's mother abruptly hung up the phone. I looked at my phone and smirked coldly. Who's afraid of whom? I'm certainly not afraid of you. That same afternoon, my parents were sitting in the living room watching TV when their expressions suddenly changed. They liked to watch the local social news, which was undoubtedly filled with neighborhood gossip. "Qin, look," my mom called me nervously. I was also in the living room, texting the insurance company about the compensation for Qin Jin's death in a car accident. Since Qin Jin was at fault, the compensation wouldn't be much. At the sound of my mom's voice, I looked up and saw Qin's mother on the TV screen. She was giving an interview to a reporter. The news caption on the bottom left of the screen read, "After son's car accident, daughter-in-law not only refuses to save him but even destroys the home. My son had a car accident 2 days ago, and my daughter-in-law, to save money, gave up on rescuing him, leading to his death at the hospital. Now she's also neglecting my son's funeral. I really had no choice but to come to you for help," Qin's mother said, crying, looking pitiful enough to garner sympathy. "Why didn't she come? Is it because of guilt?" the reporter asked. "No," Qin's mother said tearfully. As soon as my son had the accident, she wanted the house. I worked my whole life to pay for that house in full. It's in my name, and because I didn't agree to give it to her, she immediately turned hostile, took all the furniture and appliances, and even smashed up the house. Chin's mother's words became increasingly sorrowful as she burst into loud sobbing. The reporter offered a few words of comfort, then asked, "What would you like us to do for you today, ma'am?" "I hope my daughter-in-law will handle my son's funeral and restore the house and return my furniture and appliances." "Okay, we'll contact your daughter-in-law right now," the reporter said. Soon after, my phone rang. At the same time, my parents' phones also started ringing. My mom answered. "It's not what you think. Our Shinshin would never do such a thing. It's a misunderstanding." My dad responded. "You don't know what kind of person Shinshin is. It's clear that the Chin family is deliberately smearing her. If you dare to speak ill of Shinshin again, don't blame me for turning hostile, even cutting off relatives." Clearly, Chin's mother's actions had already had a social impact. I didn't need to think too hard to know how bad my reputation was now. I felt a wave of irony wash over me. In my past life, I was burdened by debts. The Chin family caused my downfall, shattered my reputation, and led to the ruin of my household. And now they want to shame me online again, expecting me to repeat the same mistakes. It's laughable. Does she really think that fate is blind? It's about time I show her what karma really means. After the journalist made a couple of calls, I picked up. Hello in XIN. "We are from the XX program team, your mother-in-law. I saw the broadcast on TV. I'm heading to Jin's Memorial Hall now." With that, I hung up. Stirring up trouble? Who can't do that? I put down my phone, got my things together in the room, and prepared to leave. XIN, "Are you really going?" my parents asked incredulously. Anyone could see that leaving now would bring no good. With all the fuss Chin's mother is making, I've been thoroughly branded as the villain. Who knows how many people might insult me there? "Don't worry, I can handle it," I reassured them. "I'll come with you. It's not safe for you to go alone." My dad was particularly worried about me facing this alone. "There will be TV crews there. I won't be at a disadvantage. Just watch the news at home." I didn't want them to worry about me. My mom has high blood pressure, and my dad is quick-tempered. Any conflict could harm them, and that's not worth the risk. I opened the front door. Several neighbors were gathered outside. Upon seeing me, they quickly dispersed. As they walked away, a few gossipy old ladies muttered, "That's the wicked daughter-in-law, heartless. I heard her family are intellectuals. How did they raise someone so ill-mannered? That's what you call a disgrace to the educated class." I was furious. It's because my parents are too reasonable that the shameless Chin family could take advantage of us. I didn't waste time explaining myself, as the truth would soon come out. I hailed a taxi and arrived at my destination. The memorial hall was crowded, probably because the presence of TV crews had been announced. There were many onlookers aside from family and friends. As soon as I entered, the hall erupted. "An XIN, you actually dared to come. Have you no shame? If it weren't for you, Jin wouldn't have died. If Jin's mom hadn't reached out through the TV, would you have been heartless enough not to see him off? After all the kindness Jin and his mother showed you, despite being married for over 3 years without a child, they never despised you, and yet you turn your back on them." Jin's relatives were all verbally attacking me, actually. Chin's family and their relatives weren't close. Chin's father passed away early, and Chin's mother, with her strange temper and selfish ways, never took care of her in-laws, which made her unpopular within the family. Today, likely because of the media presence and the respect generally given to the deceased, everyone seemed eager to display their so-called sympathy and sense of justice. I glanced at Jin's coffin, then saw Lin Xiaomin, Jin's mistress and colleague. Lin Xiaomin noticed my look and her eyes flickered. At this point, Lin Xiaomin and Jin were still an underground item, not yet flaunting their relationship openly. She was somewhat evasive in her behavior, not yet as arrogant as she would become later, calling me a barren hen, occupying a spot without laying eggs. Indeed, Jin and I had been married for 3 years without children, but it wasn't my fault. Jin had a low sperm count, making pregnancy difficult. The doctor had suggested IVF, but the costs were significant. Mrs. Chin was reluctant to consider IVF, especially after hearing some baseless rumors that children born through this method weren't as healthy. Moreover, the doctor had mentioned that while it was difficult, it wasn't impossible. So, Mrs. Chin suggested that we try to conceive naturally first and think about other options if we got older without success. Eventually, someone did get pregnant, but it wasn't me, it was Lin Xiaomin. I still distinctly remember how arrogantly Mrs. Chin behaved after Lin Xiaomin became pregnant, boasting that her son had no issues, and it was just a matter of finding the right field that wasn't fertile enough. The irony of it all just grew more and more bitter to me, so, unable to control myself, I walked up to Lin Xiaomin. With a loud slap in front of everyone, I hit her across the face. Lin Xiaomin was stunned by my slap. Many of Qin Jin's colleagues were also at the memorial hall and were shocked by my actions. Why did you hit her, Mrs. Qin stood in front of Lin Xiaomin, furiously questioning me. Qin Jin was a mama's boy and told his mother everything, so Mrs. Qin was well aware of his affairs. She even supported him, claiming it was normal for men to have affairs, and that impregnating a woman showed a man's virility. I did what I did. I retorted coldly, what? Is there a special day to confront a mistress? What are you talking about? Mrs. Qin was visibly agitated. My son has died, and you still slander him so heartlessly. Have you no conscience? Mrs. Qin's breakdown stirred up everyone else's emotions. Qin, haven't you caused enough trouble? With so many people here, can't you show some shame? They invited you here to make amends, not to strut around as if you're above the law. I've never seen someone so shameless. Were you raised without any decency? Reporters from a TV station quickly arrived as well. Fortunately, their presence gave me a chance to defend myself. Missin, don't you think your actions today are inappropriate? Your husband has just passed away, and instead of grieving, you're causing a scene. The reporter pressed me with the microphone. I don't see anything inappropriate about it, I said bluntly. How can you be so shameless? Was my son blind to have chosen you? His death is a terrible tragedy, Mrs. Qin cried bitterly. Everyone comforted her and blamed me. Lin Xiaomin stood by, tears streaming down her face, looking very wronged. Do you have a misunderstanding with your husband or mother-in-law? The reporter asked, more calmly and rationally than the rest. It's not a misunderstanding, it's the truth, I responded coldly. My husband, Qin Jin, had an affair during our marriage. And she, I pointed at Lin Xiaomin, was the other woman. That's absurd. Qin Jin and I were just colleagues. How could there possibly be anything between us? Lin Xiaomin protested. Why couldn't there be? I interjected sarcastically. Why else would Qin Jin die in a car accident if not because of you? You can't just slander people like that. Lin Xiaomin cried out, playing the victim, but she didn't dare to make more of a scene, knowing she was guilty. Qin, I am Qin Jin's boss and also Lin Xiaomin's. I can attest that their relationship was strictly professional. Qin Jin's direct superior intervened. See, even their bosses confirmed there was nothing inappropriate between them. You are just making things up, Mrs. Qin lashed out at me again. Just because you say it doesn't mean it's true. They were sneaking around. How would you know? You weren't with them 24/7, were you? I addressed the leader. Please make sure there's evidence before making accusations about someone, of course. There's evidence. I glanced at Lin Xiaomin, who shuddered slightly, clearly not expecting to be exposed in public. After all, she and Qin Jin had kept their affair extremely confidential. No one knew except Qin's mother. If I hadn't been reborn, I wouldn't have known either. Learning the truth later was a bolt from the blue. I don't know what I've done to be so misunderstood by you, Lin Xiaomin interjected before I could speak. I don't want to disturb Qin Jin's funeral further. Since you don't want to see me, I'll leave. As she turned to leave, I blocked her path. What's the matter? Feeling guilty. I just don't want my presence to upset everyone. I'm just a nobody. How can you call yourself a nobody when you're directly responsible for Qin Jin's death? I said each word clearly and deliberately. You can't slander people just to justify not saving Qin Jin, Lin Xiaomin retorted, her face flushed with anger. Before I could respond, the leader intervened. Qin, I know Xiaomin and Qin Jin well enough, and whatever you say, I can't believe there was anything between them. After comforting Lin Xiaomin, he said, I'll escort you out. This is Qin Jin's phone. It has all the chat records between him and Lin Xiaomin. I took out Qin Jin's phone, and Lin Xiaomin's face turned deathly pale instantly. For fairness, let's have the most impartial TV reporter examine what the two of them discussed, I suggested. Handing the phone to a reporter eager for a big story, she quickly started reviewing the chat records, her expression visibly changing. After a moment, she called over the cameraman, Come on, start filming. What are you filming? What are you filming? Qin's mother became furious. She knew the relationship between Qin Jin and Lin Xiaomin well. If it was filmed, her son's affair would become national news. Before Qin's mother could snatch the phone, I took it back. Mother. So you knew about Qin Jin keeping a mistress, I said sarcastically. What do I know? I know nothing. The chat records between Qin Jin and Lin Xiaomin clearly state that you agreed, even saying you liked her better than me. I revealed her lie. I did not. The reporter saw it too, right? I turned to the journalist. I did. The journalist nodded. Qin's mother's face flushed with anger and embarrassment. In a sudden outburst, she yelled, Get out! All of you get out now. I don't need your help anymore. Just leave. We can't leave. There's more to come, Mother. We haven't aired all our dirty laundry yet. I should really help you out here, I mocked. Qin, you wretch. My son is dead. Do you want me dead too? I'll kill you if it's the last thing I do. Mother, the camera is recording. If you dare lay a hand on me, this is called intentional injury, and it's punishable with imprisonment. You, Chin's mother, intimidated by me, then said to other relatives, help me drive her out. I don't want to see her. Mom, you're going too far. You're afraid of committing a crime yourself, so you let the relatives do it for you. You can't be so malicious. Some of the relatives, previously eager to take action, now settled down and clearly showed their dissatisfaction towards Chin's mother. I didn't mean that, Chin's mother tried to explain. I couldn't be bothered to argue with her anymore and directly said, Mom, do you know how Chin Jin died? Chin Jin died because of you. You gave up on saving him. You're the one who killed him. Chin's mother insisted it was my fault. Chin Jin had an accident because he was rushing to buy a Valentine's Day gift for Lin Xiaomin. At the time of the accident, he was on the phone with Lin Xiaomin. If Lin Xiaomin hadn't distracted him, would he have run a red light and been hit by a truck? What? Chin's mother looked at me incredulously. Here are the last messages between Chin Jin and Lin Xiaomin. Lin Xiaomin was asking Chin Jin for gifts, and he went out to buy her a gold necklace. This is the last call he made, right when his accident happened. I showed Chin's mother the phone. Chin's mother's face turned pale when she saw the messages. She turned and glared fiercely at Lin Xiaomin. Lin Xiaomin, exposed, was utterly embarrassed. How dare you make my son buy you gifts, you homewrecker, give me back my son. Chin's mother rushed over, grabbing Lin Xiaomin's hair, both crying and causing a scene. The situation immediately turned chaotic, yet no one stepped in to stop it. The TV station, far from avoiding controversy, kept filming the whole ordeal. He went to buy it himself. I didn't force him at knife point. He said he loved me and insisted on giving me a gift. What could I do? Lin Xiaomin, overwhelmed, blurted out in desperation. She directly admitted to being the other woman. Seeing this, Lin Xiaomin's boss turned green next to her, publicly humiliated. Of course, the most agitated was Chin's mother. How could you say such a thing? My son is dead, and you speak so coldly. Am I to blame for your son's death? If anyone, blame Anshin for not saving him. Lin Xiaomin then turned the accusation towards me. Anshin, did you deliberately choose not to save him because you found out Chin Jin didn't love you anymore? Regardless, it was still a human life. How could you be so cruel? Lin Xiaomin's shamelessness was unparalleled. No wonder Lin Xiaomin managed to win over Chin's mother. I never received Chin's mother's approval. I heard that after Lin Xiaomin married Chin Jin, Chin's mother took out her savings to buy them a new house, registered under both Chin Jin and Lin Xiaomin's names. Upon hearing Lin Xiaomin say this, Chin's mother immediately turned her anger towards me. Anshin, just because Chin Jin had another woman, you chose not to save him. How could you be so heartless? No matter what the circumstances, you shouldn't have done this to Chin Jin. It's like murdering him. Chin's mother looked ferocious, as if she wanted to strangle me. The people around also started murmuring. Some voices said, indeed. Even so, one shouldn't just not save a person. Saving a life is more meritorious than creating a 7-tiered pagoda. It's too heartless, others commented. Isn't it ironic? The husband has an accident while buying gifts for his mistress, and yet they expect his wife to rescue and help him. Talk about moral blackmail. Those advocating for saving were mostly older generations. Those against it were younger people. I calmly said to Chin's mother, Mom, as I said before, the person who chose not to save Chin Jin was you. It wasn't me. She said, how could I possibly? Chin's mother lamented, Chin Jin is my only son. The doctor said that the rescue might cost hundreds of thousands, and even if he survived, he might end up in a vegetative state. You said right then that you had no money. I interrupted her. If you don't have any money, how could I? How could you have no money? You've been married to Chin Jin for 3 years. Don't you have any savings? Even if you don't, couldn't you borrow some? Chin's mother said shamelessly, throughout these 3 years of marriage, if Chin Jin had given me even a penny, I wouldn't be without savings, I said loudly, and over these years, Chin Jin's money either went to you or was spent on Lin Xiaomin. What right do you have to say that I could borrow money? If you have money, why didn't you use it to save Chin Jin? You're talking nonsense. You're just spouting rubbish, Chin's mother retorted, her face flushing red with anger. I have evidence, I said with a cold smile. Reincarnated in this life, I made sure I was prepared. I calmly pulled out a document bag I was holding, and took out the bank statements inside. These are Chin Jin's bank transactions for the past 3 years. Chin Jin's monthly salary is nearly 20,000 yuan, and the first thing he does after getting paid is to send 60% of it to his mother, which means he sends her 12,000 yuan every month. The remaining 40% is mostly spent on Lin Xiaomin, about 5,000 yuan, and 3 000 yuan might partially subsidize our household expenses, but on average it doesn't exceed 1,000 yuan. The other 2,000 yuan he spends on himself, since he always says that maintaining a good image is very important. Given he works at a big company, Chin's mother looked at the long list of bank transactions and was unable to refute. It was all true and beyond dispute. As for me, my salary isn't high, just 5,000 yuan a month, but I spend all of it on our little household. Here are my personal accounts I keep every month. I even hesitate to buy myself clothes that cost more than 500 yuan, whereas Qin Jin spends more than that on a single candlelit dinner with Lin Xiaoman. I then showed my own expense details to everyone there. The reporters from the TV station were the most enthusiastic, continuously filming. No one had expected such a dramatic turn in the story. So, Mom, Qin Jin has been working for 7 or 8 years now, right? He's given you over 100,000 each year, so you must have at least 1 million in your bank account by now. Why don't you use that money to save Qin Jin? Where would I get that much money? When you married Qin Jin, didn't I buy the house in full? Qin's mother started to make excuses again, but we've been married for 3 years now, I countered. The house was bought when we got married, and in these 3 years, you must have saved tens of thousands. When we bought the house, I borrowed money from relatives. Shouldn't I pay them back? Qin's mother kept arguing. Is that so? I sneered. Today, all the relatives are here. I just want to ask, who lent money to my mother-in-law to buy the house? All the relatives looked at each other. No one spoke. Qin's mother became anxious. She probably never dreamt that someone she so thoroughly dominated could one day make her so embarrassed. Yes, I do have some savings, Qin's mother finally admitted. But she stubbornly denied everything else she had said. But I never said I wouldn't give money for Qin Jin's rescue. Qin Jin is my only son. How could I possibly not pay to save him? An Xian, why would you wrong me like this? I knew you were shameless, I sneered. That's why I went to the hospital and copied the video of you speaking to the doctor that day, Mrs. Jin's face changed drastically. I didn't give her a chance to back out, and immediately played the video on my phone, Mrs. Qin's shrill voice came from the phone. What? It's going to cost hundreds of thousands to attempt a rescue, and even then, there's no guarantee he'll be saved, and there's a high chance he'll end up in a vegetative state. You should consider it. I can't advise you. I can only tell you the worst-case scenario, the doctor said helplessly. I have no money anyway, Mrs. Qin took over. I don't work, and with a pension of just 1 or 2,000 a month, what money could I possibly have? Qin, you are his wife, you decide. The video caused an uproar. God, her own son is dying and all she cares about is her money. The thing is, she already has the money her son earned, right? She just wants to push all the burdens onto her daughter-in-law. She's really calculated it well, if her son doesn't make it. The money borrowed will be on the daughter-in-law, who will also be left with all the debt. She wants all the benefits for herself. She totally deserves whatever comes her way. How can such a person have the audacity to expose her daughter-in-law on TV? Has she no shame? Mrs. Qin was ridiculed to the extreme by those around her. Her face turned red and then pale, and for a long time, she couldn't utter a single word. Seeing her like this, I really felt great, but it wasn't enough. The suffering I endured in my previous life was far from over. I continued calmly. Mother-in-law came to the TV station today to accuse me of taking things from the house and even smashing the decorations. I want to clarify here. The reason I did this, I must admit, is because I felt aggrieved. Why should Qin Jin have the freedom to have an affair? Why does my mother-in-law support him, now that Qin Jin is dead? I can't confront him, and I don't want to argue with my mother-in-law. So I just wanted to take back my own things and be done with this family. The own things I'm talking about are all the home appliances that were gifts from my parents at the time of our marriage, and the renovations were also paid for by my parents, but the house is in my mother-in-law's name. I have no share in it, so I could only move my belongings out. I might add, my mother-in-law claimed that because she paid for the house in full. I didn't ask for any dowry when I married Qin Jin. Most of you here can probably testify. My mother-in-law used to boast everywhere that her son was successful, that getting a wife cost him nothing, and that the bride's family even gave a lot in return. A relative immediately chimed in. I can testify to that. She used to brag about how her son was competent, how he got a wife without spending money, and how the other side gave so much in return. She even mocked my son for spending a fortune on his marriage. Because of this, I almost had a conflict with my son, but now, thankfully, I wasn't swayed by her, and thankfully, I cared that my daughter-in-law had not had an easy upbringing. I gave the full dowry that was due, otherwise, this retribution might have fallen on me too. She deserves the divine punishment of losing her son. Mrs. Qin became furious at the relative's words. What are you saying? What nonsense are you spouting? As she moved to strike the relative. The relative's husband pushed her away forcefully, with considerable strength. Mrs. Chin staggered back several steps. The relative's husband threatened coldly, "Touch her again, and I'll kill you." "You, Mrs. Chin was frightened. "I'm telling you, your son's death is on you. Not just your son, but your husband too is doomed by you. People like you, even in death, no one would mourn you," the relative's husband said fiercely. You. Mrs. Chin was livid, her breakdown complete. With a heart-wrenching cry, she began to wail, "You all bully me, a lone old woman, you will not die a good death." She cursed as she cried. She was behaving like a shrew, utterly disgraceful. Everyone on the scene just watched her as if she were a spectacle. No one showed the slightest sympathy anymore. It was truly repulsive. "There's one more thing I need to clarify," I said, ignoring Chin's mother. Chin and I don't have children because of his physical issues, not mine. Here is the medical proof of his infertility. I showed the document to everyone. "Enough, Chin, haven't you done enough? Do you want Chin to die with a restless soul?" Chin's mother screamed at me hysterically. "Exactly, what right does he have to die peacefully? I was planning on IVF, but my mother-in-law said it was too expensive and suggested we try naturally, but Chin died without us having conceived." As I spoke, the crowd became restless again. "It serves you right. Always chasing after money. Now that your son is dead, you're left with nothing. It's divine retribution. Justice is served. People like this don't deserve our sympathy." Chin's mother broke down even more. "Shut up, all of you, just shut up." But no one paid her any heed, nor did I. "I came here today not to attend Chin funeral. He died because of Lin Xiaomin, and I'm no saint to overlook that. I'm here not just to clear my name, but to settle some scores," I continued calmly. Looking coldly at Chin's mother and Lin Xiaomin, I said, "Don't blame me for bringing this up now. I was planning to wait until after Chin's affairs were settled, but since you're in such a hurry, I don't want to waste time." Before Chin's mother and Lin Xiaomin could respond, the crowd started to get noisy. "Settle it however it needs to be settled. We support you, Chin. We misunderstood you before. Speak up now while everyone is here, and we'll ensure justice is served. They shouldn't get away with bullying you. Speak up, we're here to support you." A reporter approached me excitedly. "We are currently live on TV and streaming online, and the viewership is very high. Everyone supports you and hopes you can reclaim the justice you were denied. Our TV station will stand by you, and if you need legal help, we can arrange it immediately." "I need it," I agreed without hesitation. "Just a moment," said the reporter as he went to contact a lawyer. With the TV station involved, I wasn't at a disadvantage. Chin's mother became frantic, yelling at me, "Just go away. Since you want to sever ties with Chin, then leave, and I will treat you as if you were never my daughter-in-law. Don't rush. After we settle the accounts, I will leave. I have no accounts to settle with you," Chin's mother suddenly declared generously. "For all the things you smashed in the house, I will take it as my bad luck and won't hold it against you." I didn't even need to refute, someone in the crowd did. "Have you no shame? Chin already said that the renovation was funded by her parents. If she's not living there anymore, of course, she had every right to smash it. I let her live in my house for years for free," Chin's mother retorted. "Chin married your son, and I didn't ask for a dowry. In fact, I ended up paying so much myself. And you have the nerve to say you've been letting her live in the house for free for years." Such shameless words from such a shameless person. It's truly a sight I never thought I'd see. More and more people began to mock Chin's mother. Chin's mother couldn't take it anymore. "Our family's affairs are none of your business. We couldn't care less about your family matters. But we are fully involved when it comes to Chin's issues." Everyone present was standing up for me. I had anticipated that Chin's mother and Lin Xiaomin would end up disgraced and in a sorry state, but I never imagined I would suddenly receive so much support. In my previous life, I was alone and helpless. People around me either called me foolish or harassed me to repay them. It wasn't my fault. Yet I faced the greatest hostility in the world during that time. So much so that when I jumped from the building to my death, I truly had no regrets. Being supported by so many people now, I have to admit, it moved me. My eyes were red, and my nose felt sore. I held back, trying hard to control my emotions. Fortunately, the TV station's lawyer soon arrived at the scene. I calmed myself down and said loudly in front of everyone, "I've been married to Chin for 3 years. According to the marriage law, any property acquired during our marriage, whether earned by me or by Chin, should be considered marital property. As everyone has just seen, over these 3 years, Chin has transferred most of his money to his mother and his mistress." I turned to the lawyer and asked, "Can I claim this money back?" The lawyer replied, "According to the marriage law, the income of both spouses during the marriage indeed belongs to joint property, if one spouse has given money to someone else without the other's knowledge. The other spouse has the right to reclaim it, provided there is evidence to prove it. I have it. I quickly pulled out Qin Jin's transfer records. These are the detailed statements of the money my husband transferred to them over these 3 years. The lawyer looked over the documents carefully and then nodded. These can serve as valid evidence to demand the money back. In that case, I looked at Qin's mother. Qin Jin has transferred about 430,000 to you over 3 years. I would appreciate it if you could return this money to me promptly. You're talking nonsense. My son's earnings are mine. What right do you have to take his money? Are you out of your mind? The law states that after marriage, the property is held jointly. The lawyer explained. What law? I gave birth to him. Whether he's married or not, everything he owns is mine. The lawyer was about to speak. No need to say more. I knew all too well Qin's mother's capacity for twisting the truth. No point in wasting words. Can I take this to court? Of course, you can, including the 120,000 my husband gave to his mistress, Lin Xiaomin. I asked the lawyer. Yes, the lawyer affirmed. Good. I turned to Qin's mother and Lin Xiaomin and said directly, if you don't transfer the money to my account within 3 days, I'll see you in court. Qin, you wretched woman, you dare to sue me. You think I'd be scared if you do? Qin's mother was furious. Lin Xiaomin couldn't keep her cool anymore. The money was given to me by Qin Jin willingly. Why should I return it? By the fairness and justice of the law. I articulated clearly. Lin Xiaomin was left speechless, her face turning beet red. One last thing, you have 3 days, or else I'll see you in court. With that, I turned and left. I didn't want to waste any more time on these two, Qin, if they don't pay you back. I'll be there in court to support you, a relative loudly declared. Other relatives chimed in. Exactly, just let us know when the court date is, we'll all be there. I really want to see how arrogant these two can be in front of the law. Thank you all, I said. I was genuinely grateful for their kindness. Having been through it once, you realize how beautiful people's goodwill can be. Leaving the memorial hall, Qin, a reporter called out to me. Our TV station can provide you with free legal assistance continuously if you decide to sue. Make sure to contact us. All right, if I decide to sue, I will definitely contact you. I knew well that there's no such thing as a free lunch. The TV station's offer was just for the sake of continuing their news coverage. After all, I wasn't the one hurt, and it would expose some people's ugly true colors, so why not? Back home, as soon as I stepped out of the elevator, I saw several elderly people standing at my doorstep. Those who had slandered me before. Qin, we misunderstood you earlier. We didn't realize how much you had suffered. Please, don't take it to heart, an old lady said, trying to appease me. We were deceived by your wicked mother-in-law as well. Never imagined she could be so shameless. Here, we bought you some fruits as a small gesture of apology. With that, they handed me a big bag of fruit and quickly left. As they were leaving, they still made sure to say, Qin, we are all supporting you. I never really blamed them. Most people are swayed by public opinion. The only people I despised were Qin's mother and Lin Xiaomin. I opened my home door. My parents were waiting inside, visibly excited to see me return. Their eyes were red. They must have watched the live broadcast on TV and felt both angry and pained. Qin, I never imagined you were treated so badly by the Qin family, my mom said as she hugged me and burst into tears. My dad's eyes were also red. It's okay now, isn't it? I comforted them. My daughter is smart and capable, my dad, usually a man of few words and not given to praise, showed a face full of pride. Otherwise, we would have been completely devoured by Qin Jin's mother. Just the thought of it is suffocating. I felt a pang of sadness. In my previous life, their family had driven me to suicide. I couldn't bear to think about what my parents went through after my death. Thankfully, none of that would happen again. 3 days later, Qin's mother and Lin Xiaomin still hadn't returned the money. I didn't urge them. Just contacted the TV station and waited for the court date. 2 months later, the court case with Qin's mother and Lin Xiaomin finally began. Seeing Qin's mother and Lin Xiaomin in court again was somewhat surprising. Both looked significantly haggard. Qin's mother, originally overweight, had lost at least 40 pounds, looking almost unrecognizable. Lin Xiaomin was similar. She always liked to dress up and was always meticulous, but today she was without makeup, her skin sallow and lifeless. A shell of her former self. I couldn't help but smirk. There was really no need for surprise. I'm all too familiar with the torment of being subjected to cyberbullying and the judgmental stares of those around me. It's like living a life worse than death. Today, many relatives and friends came to the court. They were there to observe and support me. Apart from those present, many others online were waiting for my good news. In court, my lawyer passionately defended my case. In the end, The court ordered Lin Xiaomin to fully refund the 121,651 yuan Qin Jin had spent on her, and allocated 20% of that amount for Qin's mother's maintenance, resulting in a total of 342,162 yuan to be refunded to me. However, since Qin Jin had passed away and his mother had inheritance rights, all expenses, including a 380,000 yuan compensation from the insurance company, were initially divided, with me receiving half as his spouse and the remainder shared equally with Qin's mother. This meant that Qin's mother ultimately had to pay me 216,708 yuan, walking out of the courtroom. I felt a weight lifted off my shoulders. The grievances of my past life were finally settled, at least as far as I was concerned. After Qin Jin's death, I managed to get back all the money that was owed to me, not missing a single cent. I regained my reputation, and now I can live the rest of my life with integrity and pursue my happiness anew. As for Qin's mother and Lin Xiaomin, their retribution has only just begun. Qin's mother is now subject to whispers and stares wherever she goes, especially since she lost her only son. With her reputation spoiled, no relatives show her any sympathy, leaving her to face her days in solitude. Even though she still has some money and owns a house, her life is far from comfortable. Later, I heard that Qin's mother fell for a skincare product scam. The young salesman, calling her mom sweetly, made her feel overjoyed. She ended up spending all her money on these products. Her relatives didn't try to stop her. Instead, they scorned her, saying she deserved to be cheated. After the skincare scammers took all her money, they disappeared. Qin's mother only realized she had been scammed when it was too late. She made a scene in the streets, crying and screaming, and was treated like a madwoman by passers-by. When she reported the scam, the police only took a record. After all, there are too many elderly people being scammed and the police are overwhelmed. Most of that money is probably gone forever. Later on, Qin's mother seemed to develop a mental illness, constantly searching for her son and even inventing a grandson. She behaved erratically at home, which the neighbors couldn't tolerate anymore. They called the police, and she was sent to a psychiatric hospital. After that, there was no more news about Qin's mother. As for Lin Xiaomin, her life isn't going any better. She was fired from her company due to her personal conduct, often faced public scrutiny, and received threats and terrifying gifts from extreme netizens. After the scandal with Qin Jin blew up, it seems unlikely that anyone would want to associate with her again. I heard that for a long time, Lin Xiaomin didn't leave her house, staying locked in her room every day, avoiding any communication with others. This behavior reminded me too much of my past life, initially still interacting with people, but gradually shutting herself away, and then, at a sudden emotional breaking point, choosing to end her life. Of course, none of this concerns me anymore, whatever end Lin Xiaomin meets. That's the retribution she deserves. It has nothing to do with me. As for me, my new life is just beginning.